Hello and welcome to everyone. Today we are going to have our discussion on General Studies paper 2 of Indian Society questions. So this year UPSC has given 3 questions in the mains examination of General Studies 2, which is of almost like 40 marks questions, which is going to be discussed by us in this session. So again, let's move on to that basically discussion quickly without any ado. Again, in General Studies paper 2, as we were discussing on General Studies paper 1 also, this year they have basically many questions on the you can say topics which are of public nature, whether it is talking about civil society or NGO or government or public charitable trust also. So if we see the question 6, public charitable trusts have the potential to make India's development more inclusive as they relate to certain vital public issue. Comment. Now, to answer that question, first thing we need to know is what is public charitable trust in India. So they are actually defined as legally established organization which are for the purpose of advancing the public welfare through various activities they involve into. For instance, they are involving into the activities of imparting education, providing healthcare, providing disaster relief or relief from poverty and other social benefits or initiatives which will benefit the population. So when we were discussing about our topic of inclusive growth, we have discussed in detail about how various NGOs, civil society and various other institutions which are not part of government can contribute in the overall inclusive growth of the, you can say, society. Now coming back to our question, how public charitable trusts have this potential. So these trusts, public charitable trusts, serve the public good and they are very important part of India's social sector, you can say, and they are most of the time involved in filling up the gap. Whenever they find government is unable to provide it, they will basically try to fill that gap, and this basically is going to have the provision of inclusivity within the critical public care, which is bridging the gap in government efforts also, which is to cater the underserved communities. For instance, I was having a discussion in the previous, you can say, test paper also, that this potential of public charitable trust in fostering inclusive development is you can say immense. Now first thing we can highlight is what are the critical areas this public charitable trust usually serve. So first we have already discussed the areas. So these critical areas of public charitable trust often include work in key sectors like your education sector, health sector, you can say welfare program for poverty alleviation and other. Similarly, we also have many such organizations to our basically knowledge which are working in this direction. जैसे प्रथम NGO is involved in education. Various religious organizations have their charitable hospital. Azim Premji Foundation is involved in contributing in improving the rural education, especially at the primary school going children level. Then second thing it is going to involve is in their flexibility and their innovation. So these trusts actually are implementing the innovative programs and adopt to the quickly emerging challenging, you can say, problems. Now one such example we have is of Tata Trust. Now what Tata Trust have? They have initiated the program in nutritional gap fulfillment and digital literacy, where they have demonstrated this in various basically villages. So this is another factor that they will involve in innovation and flexibility. Third areas, which is basically those areas which government failed to serve. that is underserved areas. So many of the trusts have focus on these areas. For instance, if there is a dense forest area or some isolated mountainous region or some areas which is far from the mainstream society, which make it difficult to provide the supply chain of food and other essential medicines and resources. So these trusts will come forward and provide them some kind of facilities to serve the underserved region. So there is a foundation by organization which run Airtel Telecom, Bharti basically foundation. Now this Bharti foundation is providing some kind of quality education to the rural children, again, and addressing their educational need. Lastly, we can highlight that another public charitable fund function is to provide the funding to the existing NGOs under corporate social responsibility. So that way you will have all these, basically you can say public charitable fund directly or indirectly going to complement the government efforts and their basically resources to enable more comprehensive development. So this is what we can write in our answer. Next question we will be answering is question 7. This is about the poverty and malnutrition creating a vicious circle adversely affecting human capital formation. What step can be taken to break the cycle? So first of all, what the question says, if we try to understand and dissect the meaning or deconstruct the meaning, it says that poverty and malnutrition both are going to create a vicious circle. One is leading to another. So poverty create some kind of problem of hunger, and hunger might be considered as one of the cause of malnutrition. Similarly, if someone is malnourished, that person will not have the sufficient nutrition, and when they grow up, they would not have the cognitive ability to get the decent employment or educational opportunities, and they will suffer from poverty. So this is vicious circle. Vicious circle का मतलब होता है दुष्चक्र. मतलब once you are trapped into it, it is very difficult to come out from it. Now, next part is adversely affecting human capital. So capital का मतलब होता है पूंजी, and that is human. So human become capital only when they have some kind of basically ability to generate some kind of revenue. So again, a capital is something which generate revenue for a owner for longer duration. So if human are having a skill, education, they will serve to the interest of the society and nation for longer duration, and that is why they will be referred as the capital. Now again, what steps can be taken to break this cycle? So this is a vicious circle, the question itself has indicated. So what are the steps which are supposed to be taken in this regard? Now if you see this question, we have in detail discussed about the causes of hunger and malnutrition and how they are acting as a vicious circle. Causes of hunger and malnutrition and having a establishing correlation between all three of them with poverty. So when we talked about this kind of basically topic, we have in detail discussed about how poverty is going to be ended only when this vicious circle is broken. Right. So we can start our answer by defining that how poverty and malnutrition are interconnected, that is one cause to another, and this is impacting the overall human capital. Now this is something which is what introduction paragraph will have. Now again, how we are going to get rid from it. So addressing this problem, which is what the steps they have asked in the question itself. Addressing this problem require a multi-pronged approach, which is focusing on economic and the health factor. Similarly, employment generation programs like Manrega, they have skill development program like Skill India Mission, or programs like Ujjwala, which is going to empower the women by providing them LPG connection free of cost. Along with, if there is a possibility of microfinancial support which will establish in self-employment like Seva did, is going to be helpful. So one way is that various welfare program need to increase and expand. Second, to break the cycle of poverty and malnutrition, one important initiative taken by government is Poshan Abhiyan, which is also a welfare program, but Poshan Abhiyan is primarily to provide the nutritional security to the school going children, serving the twin purpose of education plus nutrition. So it will strengthen the basically education as well as providing the sufficient nutrition to the school going children. Third is we can suggest that strengthening of PDS, public distribution system. Since public distribution system is utilized for supplying the free ration under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, again this is very important that it is not going to have any kind of pilferages or some kind of loopholes, to ensure that all these people, especially the poor one, will get the ration from the basically government organization on timely basis. Then Zero Hunger program is one such program. In Zero Hunger program, there is a awareness generation for the importance of micronutrient. So micronutrient includes some kind of, you can say, iron and folic acid, zinc and some kind of vitamin rich food. Now this will enhance in taking care of deficiency of micronutrient, and the zero hunger is going to be established. Lastly, one can say that to enhance the capital formation among the human, what can be done in this regard could be more emphasis on the education enrollment programs to large population of the country, and we would also like to have made education more learn by fun activity, where we will be having the basically constant upgradation of the syllabus and the way of pedagogy and curriculum, right. So policy intervention will have an effective implementation of all this basically programs on the ground that will lead to solution to this problem. So that way we can highlight the solution. Next question is 17th question, which says, in a crucial domain like public healthcare system, the Indian state should play a vital role to contain the adverse impact of marketization of system. Suggest some measure through which the state can enhance the reach of public healthcare at the grassroots level. In fact, this is a very good question which we have discussed in detail while taking into consideration of the aims and the policies along with programs which is highlighted in National Health Policy of 2017. So if we see, we have discussed about the National Health Policy 2017. In the National Health Policy, there is talked about the opening of health and wellness center across the country with free medicine and diagnostic tools. In this particular topic, we have to highlight about some of the suggestions and also what basically Indian healthcare system, Indian state should play a vital role in that. So when we are going to write an answer, we will start with an introductory remark in this particular kind of question. What should be the introduction? So in this particular answer, the introduction may start with that Indian public healthcare system is actually overcrowded. So it is again having too much of pressure due to increase basically population and marketization, which can limit its access and affordability for the vulnerable population. Now, if state does not provide them some kind of proactive role or care to mitigate these challenges or adverse impact on enhancing the reach of the healthcare at the grassroots level, definitely large number of people are going to collapse or die, right. For instance, just to give you data, India is having low public expenditure on healthcare. Sorry. Which is roughly around 2.3% of its GDP. Now, if you compare it with the public expenditure on health by USA, not only it is 16% of its GDP, but it is catering to approximately 35 crore population of USA. It is approximate. India's population is approximately 140 crore. And you know, GDP of India is approximately, by even a liberal estimate, is $4 trillion. On the contrary, US GDP is almost like $30 trillion. So they are spending out of $30 trillion, 16% of it to cater to the 35 crore people. And we are spending 2.3% of our $4 trillion economy on 140 crore. So clearly one can see the gap between the, you can say, the public expenditure on the health. And what are the key measures we can take as a government to enhance the public healthcare infrastructure? So first thing is focus on strengthening of primary healthcare center. Primary or sub-primary healthcare center need to be strengthened. Now, the first point of contact of a person who are large in number is from rural area, and if rural India or rural areas primary healthcare are underserved or inadequate, naturally it will create an impression that government health facilities are inadequate, and this is create an impression and force the people to go for private sector, and this will cause out of pocket expenditure. So, in order to save that, we need to have a sufficient staff for taking care of, you can say, the healthcare needs of the rural population. Similarly, we have to ensure the equipments and conduct a quality audit and performance on regular basis. Second is, if there is limitation, so we can leverage the technology in this area. So, leveraging the technology mean expanding the telemedicine services, where a doctor and patient could communicate via some network, through which a local basically doctor will also get some kind of, you can say, hands-on experience and the expertise guidance to treat a patient, and that data could be stored in a patient management software or database, so that in future that can be used as a record for what kind of treatment has been followed. This could be followed by mobile basically application also, or some kind of basically handheld device application also. So, that way we can leverage the technology to fulfill the gap. Third is to enhance the community based healthcare. Now, what do we mean by community based healthcare? So, when we talk about the community based healthcare, it is about the increasing in the number of people who are from the community as ASHA worker, accredited social health activists who are going to strengthen the Anganwadi center for basic healthcare, nutrition, and most importantly the awareness generation among the population who are suffering from lack of awareness, right. Then overall we have to monitor and work on improving the public health infrastructure. So, public health infrastructure need to be developed in a three-tiered approach with a clear referral of pathway from primary to tertiary care, and more basically exposure to the remote areas, so that upgrading the existing facility with modern infrastructure and equipment gave a sense of confidence to the people that government is not leaving them just because they are having the limited resources. Lastly, addressing the marketization concern is requiring some kind of regulation to control the private healthcare cost and maintain some quality standard. So, schemes like Ayushman Bharat Yojana or Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, the same is going to have a basically integrate or provide some kind of interface between a public or private healthcare, and that way ultimately the benefit is going to be pocketed by or reach to the people who are deserving. Similarly, public-private partnership in the health sector should be promoted, which will help in creating some kind of, you can say, filling of the gap. Lastly, we can say that most emphasis should be done from the school till the college for awareing people about how to have a prevention rather than cure. So, as we have already heard of multiple times that prevention is better than cure. So, now is the time to basically implement it, and as we have discussed or mentioned that it was also in our national health policy wellness center to be open, so that prevention of diseases should be emphasized by awareness generation. So, simply in concluding remark, what we can write is that state intervention for a country like India, where majority of the population are still suffering from one or the other form of deficiency or lacuna or some kind of poverty, is important, and state has to balance the market forces in healthcare to ensure the equitable access and strengthening of the public healthcare infrastructure by the state will be in long term to provide us the human capital which is healthy and the skilled enough to provide the basically services which will improve the overall economic growth of the country. So, that is about the General Studies paper 2 discussion, and hope you have learned something with our discussion, noted down some of the point. We will continue our endeavor to provide you quality content, so that you can also enrich some of your basically you can say content with our discussion. So thank you everyone, and for patiently listening to us. Wish you all the very best for your preparation and your examination. Have a great day, guys.